We're going to tie an Albacore today, which is a fly that I developed about 5 or 6 years ago for use on false albacore out at Montauk. I've given it away to a lot of people. There's a lot of interest in it, but people don't know quite how to tie it, so we'll show you step by step. We're using a 2/0 hook today, really for demonstration purposes. Most of the time we tie the Albacore on a smaller hook, 1 or 2 or 1/0. For the tail we need 2 feathers. And this is where I start using hot glue. Use a little dab where that thread is on the bend of the hook, and it's like tack welding. This will hold the feather in place. So you do the one side, then the other. If you need it, you can apply another dab of glue. I had enough there. And then you kind of squeeze it. And now that's really nicely anchored. Give it a couple of wraps and trim it. Now I'm going to put a little flash on the outside of each of those feathers. And if you notice, those feathers are flared out. I'm going to use crystal flash. You can use Flashaboo or any other flashy material that you like. Color choices are all up to you. Put a little dab of glue on there. I'm just going to anchor that flash on that side. Just give it a wrap to tie it on. Do the same for the other side. Now we're ready to tie the body on. And for that I use Estas. This is the regular size. You can use the petite or the grand depending on the size of your fly. Tie it in right over the bend of the hook. And here again we call for hot glue because we want this fly to be sturdy. I'm going to lay a bead of hot glue down the length of the hook up near the eye. And then wrap the Estas right into that. And that glues it in, makes the fly very durable. It'll stand up to bluefish and other toothy fish. Just tie it off and trim it. I'm going to select 2 hackles here from this neck, larger than the tail feathers. You want it to be about the length of the fly, right down to the tip of the tail. Take your glue gun and just feed a bead of the glue right down the length of that hook and a little bit past the bend in the hook onto the tail feather slightly. Then you take your hackle and you just lay it right on that glue, wet your finger, and then smooth it down. Do the same for the other side. So on to the next and almost last step, which is to lay down a lateral line over that feather. So you tie it in just behind the eye, and you hold it back and run a bead of that glue right down the spine of that feather that you laid on that hackle. Put the lateral line on top, wet your finger, and just push it right into that hot glue bead. Then trim it off about the length of the tail. Go to the other side and do the same thing. After you've done the lateral flash on both sides, you just tie off with a whip finish or half hitch or whatever you prefer to use. Use your fingers or your tools, whatever. I use a homemade whip finisher. We're going to add eyes. I always add eyes to my flies generally. Some tiers prefer not. I think it makes a difference, but who knows? Only the fish. It sticks nicely to the hot glue. Then you take your glue gun again and squeeze out a little blob right on top of the eye and then run it down the length of that lateral line just past the bend of the hook, just like we've been doing. Wet your fingers, smooth it down. Do the same for the other side. A little wad on top of the eye and then right down on top of the lateral line. Wet your fingers and smooth it. You have a nice smooth body built up there. And now you just run some hot glue around the head of the fly, 360 degrees. Looks really messy. Wet your finger and just smooth it into place with these little taps. And there you go. All done. The Albacore.